Good Vach, everyone. Welcome. As I watch the names come on and see how we're getting richer and richer here by the share by the minute. Richer and richer by the minute. It's literally, I can't thank all of you enough as I watch how the share gets richer and richer with all the names coming and joining us. A good morning to everyone. We are broadcasting from Greenwald Caterers, their beautiful Pesach in Somerset, New Jersey. And beautiful Pesach it is, as I'm here with my mother and Saba, and of course my Rebbetzin, and the first days we were here with my Shver and Shviger as well. And Baruch Hashem, I just mamish finished before Havdalah an hour shir on Shalom Bayis to the entire Olam. It was very beautiful. We are dedicated by A.B. Spry for Nachas from the whole family, as he said that in the schus of the Babas, all his children should be healthy Babas, and he should have Nachas from the entire family. And Michal Chavin, who is just joining us, that everybody should finish Shas with Gesund. Look at this. 26 Zoomers already, richer and richer by the minute. Berish, how is your mother doing?
Hi, she's still the same, Rabbi. Thank you.
Give me her name.
Miriam Sarah Basfega.
Miriam Sarah Basfega, who is in very, very severe condition. So the tefillah is that the Rebbeinu Shalom should give her the proper Yeshua. Miriam Sarah Basfega should have a refuah shalema b'seich sharcha Yisrael.
Can I give you a name also, my brother? He's going to be 100 in a few days, and he's in the hospital for precaution. Can I?
Okay, yeah. So Mo Kushner, who is the baby brother, is giving us his name. Mo Kushner is only 97, but he has an older brother that's going to be 100. What's his name?
His name is Hesvi Ben Nachama Alevi.
Hershvi Ben Nachama Alevi should have a refuah shalema b'seich shachal Yisrael. Okay, and you're welcome. Okay, we welcome in over here. I see that Mark has a granddaughter sneaking up over there. Mark is down in the bunker again, and we welcome in Gedalia and Aaron Swade and Mark Frankel, Irving Fishbaum all the way from Aventura, and Rich Leonard all the way from Fairways Lakewood, and Yisrael Fisher, who is in the jungles of Tannersville, Nachman Chapler and A.B. Spry and Menachem Umansky, Mel Zachter, Barish Gesem and Dr. Block and Michal Chavin, Shimon Deer and his wonderful son Eddie Chazan, Mo and Dr. Guy, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Yehuda from Yerushalayim. I wish I knew which Mati this was. Yitzhak Muller, Abe Arbach, Shelley Zeitlin, Chaim Braun, Rabbi Kranz, Ruvain Shannon is joining us, and so is David Helfgott on not Color Lashon, but on Zoom phone. And we have the pleasure of finishing Hazov tonight. Unbelievable. We won't start Ezel Neshech. We'll leave that for Motzi Yom Tov, but we will finish Hazov tonight, which is a tremendous accomplishment. Hazov is from one of the more harder prokim in Shas, and we finished it with pleasure. Tonight's dafim are not hard, and yes, it's not hard. Mark told me I'm a little tired from all the cholent, Pesach the cholent, so if you could give me a break a little bit. And Eddie Chazan in Mexico City, I don't know, did we lose Eddie? We might have lost him. He'll probably be back soon. He's probably eating tacos or something. So anyway, we are holding by. We said that there are three things that a person goes down to Gehenim and doesn't get out. Rahman al-Itzlan. One is adultery. One is embarrassing someone in public. And one is using for someone a bad nickname. So the Gemara says, well, Mekana Hainu Malbin isn't using a bad nickname embarrassing someone. You call somebody fatso in front of, a bunch of people. You call somebody slabola or something like that. Says Gemara, Afal Gav de Dosh Bishmei. Even though he's used to it, it's still considered a terrible crime. And now we bring in Yitzi Fuchs as our 28th Zoomer of the evening. What a beautiful way to celebrate a Chalamoid, and what a beautiful way to start the new week with Shvi Shel Pesach on the horizon. It says the Gemara, Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana, bottom line, Nun Ches Amid Beis. Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba Bar Bar Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Noyach loyla adam sheyavoy al safek eishes ish. It would be better for a person to sleep with a possible eishes ish, va'al yalbim pnei chaveroi berabim, rather than embarrass someone. In other words, if somebody is in a situation of a doubtful eishes ish, it's better than embarrassing someone. Minale. Mididarish Rava. We know that from the teaching of Rava. The Darish Rava, my dichsiv. What is that which is written? Ubitzali. When I'm limping, David HaMelech says, Samchu v'ne'esafu, my enemies rejoiced and gathered. V'loi damu, they attacked me. Karu, they tore me up. V'loi damu, they weren't silent. They weren't silenced. Now we know that they accused David HaMelech with the incident of Uriah HaChiti and Bathsheba. So David HaMelech told them, Amar David Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Goli v'yadua lefnecha, it's known and revealed before you. Shema you mekorim b'sari, if they would tear my flesh, if they would cut me into pieces, lo yadami shoises la'aretz, I wouldn't bleed. And the reason why I wouldn't bleed is because my blood already drained from the way they shamed me. Even when they're orangutan in Torah. If somebody is a bum and doesn't have the Kedushas HaTorah, it's one thing. But a person that should know, and they're learning the hardest sugyas of Shas, Negam and Alois, leprosy, and the din of oil hameis, which is very, very complicated stuff. Imrimly, they would say to me, David, David, when you sleep with a married woman, what's the execution? And I tell them, if a person sleeps with a married woman, he dies with strangulation. However, he has a portion in the afterlife. But if you embarrass someone in public, the Miri adds over here, if you habitually embarrass someone in public, you don't have a portion in the afterlife. Rav Marzuta Bar Tuvia said in the name of Rav, and others say Rav Chanan Bar Bizna said in the name of Rab Shimon the Pious. Yet others say Am Rab Yochanan Mishum Rab Shimon ben Yochai. Now this is a remarkable teaching. It should be easier for a person to throw himself into a furnace of fire, and not to embarrass someone publicly. Now the choice of words over here is really astounding. It doesn't say that a person is required to throw themselves into a furnace rather than embarrass someone. That would be, astounding enough, as we welcome Stephen Holtzman. It says instead, it says it should be easier. In other words, a person has to train themselves that, I don't know if you ever saw the oven in a matzah bakery. That's real hot. It should be easier for you to go into such an oven than to embarrass someone. That means that a person has to develop such a dread from embarrassing someone. And at this point, I want to clarify, because it was raised by someone in the share. When I poke fun at Marshall, it is with his agreement. I mean, there's some things he doesn't like. He tells me that he doesn't want me to make any more jokes about in room 208. He's a little uncomfortable with any sexual jokes. But otherwise, he's fully on board on keeping the olam awake. And nobody should learn from this in any way, shape, or form that it's okay to poke fun at anybody. As we see over here, it should be easier to go into an oven than embarrass someone. Look, we can't help it sometimes with Eddie Chazan, who's, always on the run, and, you just can't help it, He's in New Mexico one day and North Carolina the next day, But the Gemara tells us, Minolan, how do we know this? Mitamar. Now, Tamar is a remarkable story. Because she was a Bas Koyin, and it was a Hira Shah, a special case, they wanted to take her and burn her with her two unborn children. She had twins. And she said, now really she was with Yehuda, which was a semi-mixed mitzvah of Geula. But she wasn't going to embarrass Yehuda. She was willing to go to die b'sreifa, into a furnace, rather than embarrass him. And all she said is, she was being taken out to be executed. She sent her father-in-law to the one that this staff and money bag belongs to. If he wouldn't have admitted it, right, he admitted it, right? He said, Sotka, she's righteous, mimeni, it's from me, right? But otherwise, she would have gone to her death. Rav Ravidi. What is that which is written? That a man shouldn't hurt his friend. The drasha of Amisai is Am she'itcha. Amisai is im itai, the one that's with him. Am she'itcha b'Torah b'mitzvahs al toneu. The special mitzvah of lo yisainu is achicha b'mitzvahs, is with another religious Jew. That's where the lav is. Now, I always say that we could have known that with the word Re'ehu, because Re'ehu always refers to Re'echa b'mitzvahs. Why does it say Amisai? So it's my opinion, as we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, it's my opinion that Amisai means Im Itai, the one that's with him, and it's a special allusion to your spouse, that it's especially traitorous to embarrass a spouse. You know why? Because the Torah says by a wife, dvekis. V'davak b'ishtay. Dvekis means loyalty. Right? Just like it says about the Eishes Chayil, Botach bo leiv baila. Her husband knows he could count on her. He doesn't know who else he could be. He knows he could count on her. That's loyalty. To embarrass a spouse is the biggest treachery in marriage. Says the Gemara, Amarav, La'olam yehi adam zoyer b'ina'as ishtay. A person should be very careful with hurting his wife. Shemitoich shedim asa mitzuya. Because her tears flow easily, a woman is emotional. And her tears flow easily, and Sharei Demois Leininalu, the gate of tears, although the gate of tefillah is sometimes closed, but the gate of tears is never closed. And therefore, since she tears easily, the punishment for hurting her is close by. It's very dangerous. It's 20,000 volts. You have to be very careful with the feelings of a wife. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Miyayim Shenechrav, here the Gemara says that other tefillahs might not be accepted. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Miyayim Shenechrav Beis HaMikdash, from the time that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Ninalu Sharei Tefillah. The gates of tefillah have been shut. It's not easy to get tefillahs through. Shenema Gamki Ezak Vashaveh, even though we scream and cry out, so some tefillasi, my tefillah has been shut down. Even though the gates of tefillah are shut, the gate of tears are not shut. Shenema Shima Tefilasi Hashem, listen to my prayers, Vishavasi Azina, hearken to my cries, El Dimasi Al Techerash, do not turn a deaf ear to my tears. V'amarav, whoever follows the advice of his wife, Neufel beGehenim, falls into Gehenim. Shenema Rak lo yoya ka'achav. Don't be like Achav, who listened to his wicked wife Izebel. Don't be like Kairach, who listened to his wife, Mrs. Kairach. Don't be like Haman, who listened to Zeresh. But because a person falls into Gehenim, says the Gemara, but we are advised to listen to our wives. Amalei Rapapul Avayav or Imre Inche, people say, it's a sagutza, even if your wife is short, gochin v'silchishla, bend down and whisper to her and ask her advice. Says the Gemara, like Kash, there's no difficulty. Habemile the Alma, if it's matters outside of the home, then don't listen to her. Habemile the Beisa, but if it's domestic matters in the home chachma isnoshim bonsa baisa, the home is her realm, take advice. Lishna Achrina, there's another version. Habemile deshmai, in religious matters, in spiritual matters, the husband should decide. Habemile de alma, in other matters, he should listen to his wife. Amar Rav Chisda, kol ha'sha'orim nin'olim, all gates are sealed, chutz mishari ayna, except for the gate of a person that was hurt. If a person is hurt and they call out to the Rabbeinu Shalom, the Rabbeinu Shalom right away listens. Shenemar, B'hinei Adonai Nitzav, Hashem is standing, al choimas anach, on a wall that was made straight with a plumb line. A plumb line is a cord that has lead on the bottom of it that goes straight down. Over Yodai Anach, and in his hand was this plumb line. Now we darshan Anach from the lashon of Einah, of hurt, and Chaimas is a lashon of Chema, so Midas Hadin. So Hashem gives Midas Hadin against a person who does Einah. Amar Rav Elazar, Hakol Nifra Bidei Shliach. When a person is punished, they're punished through an agent, through angels, Chutz or human beings. Chutz Einah, except for Einah. Shenemo v'yodai anach. When it comes to Einah, Hashem himself has in his hand the plumb line of Midas Hadin. Amar Rabbi Yavo Gimel Eina Pargan Nino B'fneihem. 3, the curtain that separates us from the Rabbeinu Shalom is never closed. Einah, a person that's hurt. V'gezel, the victim of theft, v'avodah zarah, and idolatry. Hashem always has the plumb line of Midas Hadin by him. So we welcome back Mark Flankel. I don't know what happened to him. Okay. There he is. Mark is out of the bunker, back into his study. Don't you know already it doesn't work in the bunker?
They're putting the grandkids to sleep, Rabbi. I get kicked out of the bunker.
I don't know. That's not an excuse. Don't blame grandchildren. Anyway, it's good to have you back. You just missed some very important Gemara, but what could you do? What could you do?
I'll rewind tomorrow.
Okay, that's okay. Very good. Gezel, that there's no curtain that blocks the cries of the victim of theft. The Chsiv Chamas V'Shoid, corruption and despoiling, Yeshama ba al panai summit, is heard by Hashem always. And Avodah Zarah dechsiv ha'ama machisim oisi, the nation that angers me with idolatry, al panai summit, that transgression is before me at all times. Rabbi Yehuda, la'olam yehei adam zayir b'tfuah b'seich beisai. A person should always be careful to have the proper sustenance, which is represented by grain, in his house at all times. Because she'ein meriva Metzia b'seich beisai shel adam, because we don't find strife and conflict in a home, ela al iskei tfuah, when there's not enough sustenance in the house. And this we say in Sukkot Zimrei every day. Shenemar hasam gevulei shalom. He places in the border peace when chelev chitim yazbiech, when the fat of wheat is there to satisfy. So therefore, hasam gevulei shalom. If when is there in our borders peace, when chelev chitim yazbiech, when the cream of wheat is there to satisfy. This is a very big yesod in Yiddishkeit. This is a very big yesod in Yiddishkeit. That when is there tension in a home, when there's financial pressures. And the Gemara says, Amar Papa Hainu Dimrei Inshe, that's what people say. B'mishlam Sare Mikada, when the barley ceases to be in the jar. Now barley is a machal behema. And if they don't even have, forget about wheat, if they don't even have barley in the cupboard, nokish va'asi tigra bebesa. There comes knocking and coming fights in the home. When they told Reb Miller that there isn't shalom bayis in someone's home, the first thing he wanted to know is if the husband has a job. Now, first of all, it's because of this Gemara. If there's not enough finance in the home, there's going to be problems. Also, Reb Miller held that if the husband is home too often, that's no good either. He's on top of his wife all the time. That's no good either. It says, Gedola malacha, greatest work, shemechabedes es baila. It honors the one that does it. As we say in Kiddush, Asher bara Elokim la'asos. Hashem created man to be productive. Now, you know, there's a hidden benefit to tzedakah. You know, we all know, Aser b'shvil shetes Asher, give meiser in order to become rich. We also know tzedakah tatzim lemavos. But in Pirkei Avos, it gives us another reward from tzedakah that people are not familiar with. And that's marba tzedakah, marba shalom. That one who does a lot of tzedakah gets the benefit of peace. Now, why is that? The answer is because if you give money to a family and you relieve that family's tension, then you're granting them more harmony. And Hashem, who rewards Midah Keneged Midah, will reward us with harmony. So giving money to a family that's suffering financial tension is a great way to get harmony in the home. Now, it's interesting, but the Mefarshim take this pasuk that we learned from back to front. Right? The Gemara says, if there's chelev chitim yazbiach, if there's enough wheat to satisfy in the house, then hasam gvulei shalom. Then there'll be in the borders peace. Because if there's financial stability, then there's peace. But others learn it the other way. That if a person wants to have financial prosperity, then he will make sure that there's peace in the home. And therefore they learn it from front to back. Hasam gvulei shalom. If a person works on maintaining peace in his home, then Hashem will grant us chelev chitim yazbiach. Now this is not what the Gemara is saying over here, but the Mefarshim all say this is another kavan in the pasuk. Because the Rabbeinu Shalom says, and this is a big midah keneged midah. The Rabbeinu Shalom says, listen, atem tluyim bi, you, the head of the house, depend on me, and your family depends on you. the way you take care of your family, I'll take care of you. So therefore, Hasam Gvulei Shalom, if somebody makes sure that there's peace in the home, a person behaves properly and respectfully to their spouse, then Chelev Kitim Yazbiach, Hashem will give sufficient sustenance. V'amrav Chinina Bar Papa, La'olam Yehei Adam Zor B'tfuah B'seich Beisach. A person should be careful that there should be enough sustenance in the home. Shaloi Nikru Yisrael Dalim, because Klal Yisrael were not considered to be needy, Ela Aliskei Tfuah, when they didn't have sustenance. Shenema V'hoya Im Zera Yisrael, Klal Yisrael planted, Uksiv V'yachanu Aleim, and they camped against them the Midyanim, the Midianites. Uksiv V'yidal Yisrael Ma'oid B'fnei Midyan. It says Midyan destroyed the crops, and then it says V'yidal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael was poor. We have to know, we have to make sure that there's enough food to eat at home. If there's not enough food, then that's considered an extremely poor home. It's very important to maintain. You know, I remember, Baruch Hashem, in my lifetime, B'li Ayin Hara, I never had a situation where I went to sleep without food to eat. I had a schia one summer to be with, there was one summer when we left Dishner's before we went to Sun Circle and we were looking for a place. That summer we were in a place called Village Green. And over there I had the zechia to be with a Rav from Queens by the name of Rav Lichtig. And he actually met the Chavetz Chaim twice, and he learned in Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. He was an extremely fascinating individual. And he told me once, Rabbi Weiss, you know what was the two biggest challenges growing up in pre-war Europe? So I said, what? He said, one was the hatred of the Goyim. He said, the Goyim, if we went down the wrong block and we went out of the Jewish quarter, the Goyim didn't throw stones at us. They threw glass at our eyes. It was such incredible hatred. And then he said to me, we had such poverty that I remember not being able to sleep in the night from hunger pangs. And my mother would cry that she didn't have any food to give us. The Gemara says there's a great poverty when there's not enough food. And now we have a real requirement for success in the home, which is consistent with what I told you, that Shalom brings Parnasa. V'amar Rabbi Chelbai, and it could be that, you know, it says a lot of times a person looks for a mimer that has a relationship to their name. It could be Reb Chelbai said this because of Chelev Chitim Yazbiach. But listen to what Reb Chelbai says. This is a world-famous mimer Chazal. V'amar Rabbi Chelbai, la'olam yehei adam zoyer b'kfeid ishtay. A person should be careful with the honor of his wife. She'ein bracha mitzuya b'seich beisay shel adam. Blessing is only found in a person's house. Ella b'shvil ishtay. Only because of his wife. Shenemar u'lavram heitiv ba'avura. And to Avram, Hashem was good and showered him with wealth. They used to say, better the dung of Avram Avinu than all the wealth of Avimelech. Shenemer ula Avram heitiv ba'avura. To Avram, Hashem did good because of Sarah. Now that's a remarkable thing. You know why we give an example with Avram? Because we would think that by Avram, he gets wealth because he was the Ish Chesed. And that's Mida Keneged Mida. He did Chesed. He had 4 doors on 4 sides of his house. He gave to everybody. Of course he's showered with wealth. Says the Gemara, nope. Even Avraham. Ulavram eitiv ba'avura. Here you have a person. It's interesting. Here you have a person. He's wealthy, and he says, "You know what I do for my wife? You know the things I get her. I got her a beautiful car, and I give her a beautiful shopping account. I do everything for her. He's a master of industry. He's real estate and stocks and everything. But you should know she does for him. Because ein bracha metzia b'seich beisei shel adam ela b'shvil ishtay. B'hainu da'amalu Rava l'bnei mechuzah. Now Rava, he wore many hats. He was the great Talmudist, but he was also a Rav of the very wealthy port city of Mechuzah. And he told his wealthy balabatim, O kirul and shaychu, honor your wives, ki heichi detisasru, in order that you become wealthy. Honor your wives, in order that you should become wealthy. Tanan Hasam. Now here we're going to learn about the famous Tanner Shel Achnoi. There are many different shatim in this, but what happened here is that an earthenware oven, was cut up into pieces. And then they cemented the pieces with sand cement, and they fashioned it into a new oven. And the question is, sand, which is not baked in a kiln, is not makabel tumah, because it's called klei adama. The pieces of earthenware, those were baked in a kiln, in a furnace, those would be makabel tumah. So here they fashioned the oven from pieces of finished earthenware, cemented with sand. And the question is, the sand would not be makabel tumah, because that's a klei adama. The pieces which were baked in a kiln would be. When they're put together, are they makabel tumah or not? And now, with our 30-second Zoomer of the evening, 30-second Zoomer of the evening, Gematria Leiv, comes one of the hearts of the Shir. Marshall, welcome. And we are holding Marshall, Mamish, at the bottom of Nun Tes Amud Aleph. The bottom of Nun Tes Amud Aleph. So, Tanan Osam, Chatacha Ichulyas, if they took this oven and they cut it into pieces, V'nasan Chol Ben Chulya L'Chulya, and they put sand cement between each strip of oven, and they cemented it together. Rabbi Elazar says, since the cement has a din of klei adama, and it's held together with klei adama, that's not makabel tumah. The oven is not makabel tumah. The Chacham say, since it's each piece of oven which is baked in a kiln is makabel tumah, and the sand is just the cement, so it's an oven that's cemented, it is makabel tumah. V'zeu Tanner Shel Achnoi. This is the famous oven that's called the oven of the serpent, of the snake. Says the Gemara, my Achnoi. What do you mean of the snake? They surrounded it with arguments like a serpent. V'tamuhu, and they decided, and the majority of the Rabbanim Paskin, that it was Tana. Now, what happened over here in a famous situation is that Rabbi Eliezer stuck to his grounds, and he argued on the majority, and he said that it was tar. So Tana Ba'isa Yom Heishiv Rabbi Eliezer Kol Tshuvas Sheba'olam. He brought all kinds of proofs in the world that it should be tar, v'loy kiblu eiman. They didn't accept it. Now here, Rabbi Eliezer, who was a great miracle worker, started to do fireworks. If the law is like me, this carob tree, Yoichiach should prove it. And nekar charav mimekaimai, the carob tree suddenly uprooted from its place, meya amma, 100 amas, v'imri lo arba meyas amas. 400 amas. Amrulay, they told him, "Hey, Mavi and Rayam in a charav. You can't bring proof from a boksa tree." Chazav Amalei mi malacha k'maisi. If the halacha is like me, amas hamayim yoichichu. Let this irrigation canal prove it. So what happened? A great miracle happened. It was flowing one way. Suddenly, it started flowing the opposite way. Chazav amas hamayim lachareim. It started flowing the opposite way. Amrulay, they told him, "Ein Mavi and Rayam mi amas hamayim." Chazav Amalem, then he told them, "Malacha k'maisi kaislei beis hamedrash yoichichu." Let the walls of the study hall prove it. Hitu kaislei beis hamedrash lipo. So the walls of the study hall started to tilt, to fall. Gar behem Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua yelled at them. Amalehem, he said to the walls, If Talmidei Chacham are arguing and trying to be victorious one with the other in halacha, atem mativos, what's your business over here? So loy naflu miknei k'fayde shel Rabbi Yeshua. They didn't fall because of the honor of Rabbi Yeshua, but v'loy zakfu, they didn't go straight miknei k'fayde shel Rabbi Eliezer. They stayed in a bent position. V'adayin motin v'oimden, and these walls still remain in the halfway position. So Chazav Amalem, Rabbi Eliezer didn't finish. Now he pulls out the heavy artillery. Chazav Amalem im halacha k'maisi. If the law is like me, min hashamayim yoichichu, let heaven prove it. Yotza Baskol, the Amra Baskol came out and said, Malachem eitzu Rabbi Eliezer, why are you arguing with Rabbi Eliezer? Sha'alocha k'maisei b'kol makom. The law is like him all the time. But that didn't convince Rabbi Yeshua. Amar Rabbi Yeshua al Ragla v'Amar, no. Once Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Torah, loy b'shamayim. It can't be decided in heaven. My loy b'shamayim. What does he mean? Rabbi Yomi shekfar nitna Torah me'Har Sinai. The Torah was given from Har Sinai and given to us. Ein on mashkichim b'baskal. We don't listen to a heavenly decree. Shekfar kosafta b'Har Sinai b'Torah. The rule is achrei rabim lahatos, that we go after the majority, and therefore Rabbi Eliezer is the minority. The halacha is not like him. I told you this once, that all over Shas, when we don't know something, the Gemara says teku, which means tishbi yataretz kushas v'bois. Tishbi, that's Aliyah Navi, will answer the questions and the inquiries. So I remember I asked you a kasha, why don't we say eku? Eliyahu yataretz kushas v'bois. What's this teku? Say eku. You're not used to it now, but eku would be fine. The answer is that right now Eliyahu would not be able to answer, because right now he's like a malach, and a malach can't answer because Torah lo b'shamayim. When he comes back as a human and he's going to be a tishbi, a resident of earth, then he's going to be able to answer. That's why it says tishbi yataretz kushas v'bois. Says the Gemara, Ashkechei Reb Nosson leEliyahu. Reb Nosson found Eliyahu, and he wanted to know what was Hashem doing when Rabbi Yeshua said, we don't listen to heaven. Amalei mai ovid kutsha berichu b'hayishaita. What did Hashem feel? Rabbi Yeshua says, we don't listen to heaven. Amalei, so he says, kochayich. Hashem was laughing. V'amar nitzchuni banai, nitzchuni banai. My children got the better of me. My children, in other words, Rabbi Yeshua was right. Those are the rules. Amru, now they acted very sternly with Rabbi Eliezer, because of Shalom, you can't have someone going against the majority. So Amru, Oisa Yom Heviu Kol HaTaras Shetira Rabbi Eliezer, all the taras that Rabbi Eliezer said that was tar, which touched the which touched the Tana Shalachnoi, and Rabbi Eliezer says that it's tar, v'sarfam ba'esh, they burnt it in fire. Now, for not adhering to the majority, they put Rabbi Eliezer into excommunication. V'nimnu alav, they voted, u'verchu. Verchu is a euphemism for putting on the curse of excommunication. However, they had to make sure that the right person told Rebbe Eliezer, because if somebody was disrespectful, it could bring that dishonor of a Gadol Hadar like Rebbe Eliezer could have brought destruction of the world. V'amru, that's why it's so important to learn this during Sfira, which is all about covered to Talmidei Chacham. V'amru, so they said, Mi yelech v'yodi'u, who should go and inform him? Amalam Rabbi Akiva, so Rabbi Akiva said, Ani elech, I'll go. It's a very delicate job. Shema yelech adam she'enai hag, unless somebody who's not worthy will go, v'yodi'u, and let him know, v'nim tzamachru v'eskal ha'olam kulei, and will destroy the whole world. So Ma'as also Rabbi Akiva, what did he do to tell it to him gently? Lavash shchayrim, he dressed in black. V'nis atev shchayrim, he robed himself in black. V'yoshav lefanav b'richuk arba amas, and he sat respectfully at a distance of 4 amas, because you have to separate yourself from one who is excommunicated. Amalei Rebbe Eliezer, so Rebbe Eliezer said to him, Akiva, ma yoyma yamayim, why are you dressed so strangely? Why are you sitting so far away? Amalei, so he said respectfully, Rebbe, Kimidumali, it would appear to me shachaveirim b'dilim mimcha, that your colleagues are separating themselves from you. Afu kara begadav, so Rebbe Eliezer also tore his clothing. V'cholatz minalav, he took off his shoes like one who was excommunicated. V'nishmar, he slipped off his chair. V'yoshav al gabei karka, and he sat on the ground. And zolgu einav demois, and he started crying. This cost the world dearly. Loka oilam, the world was smitten. Shlish bezeisim, a third of its olives. V'shlish bechitim, a third of its wheat. V'shlish besayim, a third of barley. In other words, the world took a hit. V'yeshaimim af botzik shebidei isha, even dough in the hands of a woman, tafach, became ruined, became spoiled. Tana, ach gadol haya ba'isa hayayim. There was tremendous woe on that day. Shebekol mokum shenasim by einav, Rebbe Eliezer, wherever Rebbe Eliezer looked, nisraf, was burnt. V'af Rebbe Gamliel haya babas sfina, Rebbe Gamliel the Nasi was in a boat. Amad alav nachshel l'toivai, a wave, a huge wave came to capsize and drown the boat. Amar, so Rabbi Gamliel said, Kimidumali, it would appear to me, she'ein ze'ela b'shvil Rebbe Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, that I'm being punished because of Rebbe Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. Amar al Raglov, he stood up on his feet, v'amar Ribayni Shalom, Goli v'yadu l'fanecha, you know what's in a person's heart. It's revealed before you, Shaloi l'kfaydi asisi, I'm not doing this for my honor, v'loi l'kfaydi beis abba asisi, nor for the honor of the household of the Nasi, of my ancestors, el l'kfaydcha, shalo yirbu machlokes be Yisrael, that there shouldn't be much machlokes in Yisrael. We have to maintain the respect of the majority. So noyach hayam mizapoy, the sea stopped from threatening to drown him. However, we have to understand that Rebbe Eliezer was hurt. And that's a very deadly thing. Ima Shalom, to be Seyud Rebbe Eliezer, was the Rebbetzin of Rebbe Eliezer, but she was also Achsei de Rebbe Gamliel. She was also Rebbe Gamliel's sister, and she was worried, as the Aruch HaShulchan says, we don't appreciate the effectiveness of Tachnun. We have a tefillah at the end of after Shemona Esrei, where we put our head down and we say Tachnun. However, Ima Shalom, Rebbe Eliezer's Rebbetzin, knew that her husband's Tachnun was a direct line to the Eibishter. And therefore she did things to distract him that he didn't say Tachnun. Because she was afraid if she would say Tachnun, that would doom her brother Rebbe Gamliel. Now, from this story onward, she distracted Rebbe Eliezer not to say Tachnun. One day, one day was Reish Chodesh. We know on Reish Chodesh we don't say Tachnun. However, v'ichluf la bein molei lechaser. She made a mistake. She thought the month was full, and therefore, she thought the month was defective, and therefore it was Rosh Chodesh, but it was a full month, and Rosh Chodesh wasn't until the next day. She thought it was Rosh Chodesh when you don't say Tachnun, and therefore she didn't stop him from saying Tachnun. Ikadamre, also Anya v'koya bava, a poor person came to the door, so Apkale Rifta, she was distracted to bring the poor person bread. Ashkachte de nofal alape. She found him that he was saying Tachnun. Amrele, she said, Oive, come, get up, cutlass lachi. You killed my brother. Adahachi, in the meantime, Nafa Shipura, Mebeis Rabbi Gamliel, the shofar of mourning came out from the house of the Nasi, the Shachim, that Rabbi Gamliel died. So Rabbi Eliezer was surprised. How did you know? Amalei mi no yodis. How did you know? Amalei kach mekablani mibeis Abba. I have this as a tradition for my house of my father. Mibeis Avi Abba, for my Zayda. Kol hasharim ninolim. All gates are shut. Chutz mishari aina, except for the gate of hurt. And I know that your hurt and your tefillah will be listened to. Tan Rabbanan. Hama'ane esager. If somebody causes hurt to a convert, over b'shloisha lavin, v'aloichatzai, if somebody oppresses him by asking him to pay a loan when he doesn't have the money, over b'shnayim. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Ma'ishna ma'ana, if you hurt a ger, it says 3 lavin, 3 negative prohibitions. You shouldn't hurt the convert. When a ger lives with you in your land, you shouldn't hurt him. And a ger is included in amisai. So therefore it's 3 lavin. Oppressing him by asking for payment of a loan, it also says 3 times. You shouldn't oppress him. A ger you shouldn't oppress. And it says, well, you shouldn't be as a creditor that presses him. And the ger is included in that general law. Ellen Gemara says, capitulates, you're right. Both hurting a ger and oppressing him is 3 lavin. Tanya, Rebbe Eliezer Agad Olaymer, Mipnei Mahiz Hiru Torah Balamed Vav Mekaimis. Why does this Torah say in 36 places? V'imrei lo b'mem Vav Mekaimis, 46 places to be careful beger, to be careful with the convert. You know why? Because the convert could easily slide back and disappear into his old ways if we don't treat him right. Mipnei shesurura. It's easier for him to go back to his old ways. What does it say? That a ger you shouldn't hurt or oppress. Because you were strangers in Egypt. Says the Gemara, Reb Nasan Aimer, Mum Shabach, since you have this blemish, you were once strangers, Al Taimer Lechabercha, you shouldn't hurl it at others. If you have a blemish, you shouldn't hurl your blemish on others. This is an interesting saying. The Zokifle Zekifa b'diyutke. If you have in your family chain a person that was once hung, that was once died at the gallows, you shouldn't say to someone, string up this fish to me. Since you had hanging in your family, you should be sensitive not to use the word stringing up, even in regard to a fish. Now we're going to just pause a moment over here to change the channel. Don't go anywhere as we welcome in Avram Allen Weissman and Ari Pfefferkorn, and Rabbi Kranz is here, Chaim Braun is here. So it's great to have everybody amongst our 32 Zoomers for this remarkable Gemara.
Rabbi Weiss?